Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Haneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. The global number of COVID-19 infections has crossed 63 million, with more than 1.46 million fatalities. The United States leads the world with over 267,000 deaths and more than 13.5 million cases so far. India is the worst hit in Asia, with over 137,000 fatalities and total 9.4 million cases. Here in Pakistan, over 2,400 tested positive and 67 more died in the past 24 hours, raising the death toll to over 8,000. The Taliban have objected to the preamble of the intra-Afghan negotiations guiding principles. The Taliban say they reject the preamble, which identifies Ashraf Ghani's administration as the legitimate government of Afghanistan. Spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid says the Taliban will not sign the guiding principles document with the preamble in the current form. Azerbaijan has retaken Lachen region as part of a deal signed with Russia and Armenia to end the Nagorno-Karabakh war. The Azeri Defense Ministry says units of the Azerbaijan army have entered the region after 28 years of Armenian occupation. During the 44-day conflict, Azerbaijan liberated several cities and nearly 300 settlements and villages from Armenia. Two children have been killed in Houthis shelling on a residential area in Yemen's southwestern Taiz province. Yemeni state media said 11 people, including 3 women, have also been critically wounded in the strikes. It said Houthis launched a number of deadly, indiscriminate strikes on several civilian areas in the governorate. And in football, West Ham have beaten Aston Villa 2-1 after a fierce English Premier League contest at London Stadium. With this victory, West Ham have now moved into 5th place on the points table. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. The global number of COVID-19 cases has crossed 63 million, with more than 1.46 million deaths. The United States is world hit with 267,000 deaths and 13.5 million cases, while India has recorded 482 deaths overnight, pushing the tally to over 137,000. There are more than 9.4 million cases across the country. Details in this report.
The world is struggling to control the coronavirus pandemic more than a year after the first case was reported. Rating agency Moody's said most countries will continue to face a significant negative shock despite successful vaccine trials. As for Latin America, the WHO has issued a stern warning to Brazil, where Jair Bolsonaro is still adopting a COVID denial approach. Colombia says it will keep land and river borders closed until January 16th. Meanwhile, the United States has reached an appalling milestone, more than 1 million new coronavirus cases every week. Hospitalizations are at a record high for the 3rd consecutive day.
If we see these trends continue, the potential for a stay-at-home order for those regions in purple because of hospitalizations in ICUs, we're not just now looking at positivity rates, we're not now just looking at case rates. We are now looking in real time at hospitalization numbers and ICU capacity in those regions.
Over in Europe, Turkey has announced a curfew on weekdays and full lockdowns over the weekends after reporting record daily deaths for more than a week. Croatia's Prime Minister Alejandro Plenković also tested positive. United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson is banking on early approval of the COVID-19 vaccine candidates by regulators before Christmas.
We have every reason now to be very hopeful that these vaccines really will turn the tide in the struggle against the disease and unlock not just this country but unlock the whole of the world and give people finally a sense of relief and salvation after a year in which humanity has basically been unable to move forward.
The United Nations says COVID-19 has fueled a 40% increase in the number of people needing humanitarian assistance around the globe.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 67 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, pushing the death toll to 8,091. The Health Ministry says 2,458 people tested positive for the virus overnight. Officials say there are nearly 49,000 active infections across Pakistan. They say more than 400,000 cases have been recorded so far, out of which some 343,000 people have recovered. The Health Ministry says over 174,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, while Punjab has reported over 119,000 cases. Also, Pakistan has rejected India's untenable statement regarding the recent OIC resolution on the Kashmir dispute. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the resolution rebuts India's claims of Kashmir being its internal matter. It said India cannot escape growing criticism of its atrocities in occupied Kashmir. It urged India to stop its state terrorism in occupied Kashmir. On Saturday, the OIC unanimously rejected India's unilateral actions in Kashmir and attempts to change its demography. Moving on now, the Taliban have objected to the preamble of the intra-Afghan negotiations guiding principles. The Taliban say they reject the preamble, which identifies Ashraf Ghani's administration as the legitimate government of Afghanistan. Spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said the Taliban will not sign the guiding principles document with the preamble in its current form. Mujahid added they are ready to move the talks forward with the current team as Afghans, not as a government team. President Ghani's spokesman Sadiq Siddiqui said both teams have agreed on all 21 articles of the guiding principles. He said at this crucial moment, Taliban continue to debate the preambles in which some issues need further clarification. Now, Azerbaijan has retaken control of Lachin region as part of a deal signed with Russia and Armenia to end the Nagorno-Karabakh war. The Azeri Defense Ministry says units of the Azerbaijan army have entered the region after 28 years of Armenian occupation. Under the ceasefire deal, Armenia was bound to return Lachin to Azerbaijan before December 1st. Armenian population that illegally settled in Lachin over the past decades had also to leave the region before this deadline. Armenia has previously evacuated Kalbajar and Aghdam districts as well. During the 44-day conflict, Azerbaijan liberated several cities and nearly 300 settlements and villages from Armenia. Now, Iran says Israel and an exile opposition group used a remote control weapon to kill nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Iranian security chief Ali Shamkhani said this in a speech at Fakhrizadeh's funeral in Tehran. The Iranian Defense Ministry initially reported that Fakhrizadeh was shot when several gunmen targeted his car. Several countries, including Germany, Russia and Turkey, condemned the assassination, calling it a provocative terrorist act. Fakhrizadeh played a crucial role in Iran's nuclear program in the early 2000s. Moving on, 29 arms controls and human rights agencies have written a letter to the United States Congress against sale of $23 billion worth weapons to the UAE. The de facto leader of the initiative, Seth Binder, said the letter aims to urge the Congress to block the deal. He said the group of advocacy agencies hope to halt the entire sales of missiles, fighter jets and drones to the UAE. Binder said this group wants to convey its opposition to the deal to the next U.S. administration. Earlier, 3 U.S. senators proposed legislation to halt the sale, which includes drones from Lockheed Martin Corp, F-35s and missiles. However, President Trump's administration briefed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about the deal yesterday. Now moving to Yemen, where 2 children were killed in shelling by the Houthi rebels on residential areas in southwestern Taiz province. State media said 11 people, including 3 women, were critically wounded in the strikes. It said the Houthis launched multiple deadly and indiscriminate strikes. The rebels recently issued a threat they were stepping up attacks. Yemeni forces backed by the Saudi-led coalition have been locked in clashes with Houthis since 2015. Now, 6 ISIS militants have been killed in an operation led by the Iraqi counter-terrorism service in Mosul city. In a statement, the counter-terrorism services said their commandos were backed by the US-led coalition aircraft. It said 3 militants were killed in an attack on a cave in the Mahmoud Mountains. It said 1 CTS commander was wounded in the operation. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has conveyed his full support to Palestine's President Mahmoud Abbas. In a statement, the Egyptian presidency said Sisi backs the Palestinian Authority's position on political reconciliation. Earlier, Sisi received Abbas in Cairo for a meeting which also included Foreign Minister Sami Shoukry. The Egyptian president said the Palestinian cause will always be a priority for Cairo. He said Egypt will continue its efforts to retrieve the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, while Abbas called for deeper coordination with Egypt and thanked Cairo for supporting the Palestinian cause. The meeting comes a day after Sisi discussed Palestine with Jordan's King Abdullah in a phone call. Moving on, NATO has invited US President-elect Joe Biden to a summit in Brussels in early 2021. In a press conference, Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the date will be decided later, but he said all leaders in the 30-member alliance will attend the summit. Stoltenberg added that he is looking forward to working with the new US administration. He said NATO is the only institution that brings North America and Europe together. In stark contrast to US President Donald Trump, Biden has pledged to restore and expand the 1949 alliance. Now, Venezuela has slammed new US curbs on China over its dealings with the Nicolas Maduro government. The foreign ministry said the illegal move aims to isolate the country and generate difficulties for the Venezuelan population. Earlier, the US imposed sanctions on a Chinese firm, accusing it of supporting Venezuela's efforts to undermine democracy. The Treasury Department said the company backs Nicolas Maduro's government in its efforts to restrict internet service. It said the firm also conducts digital surveillance and cyber operations against political opponents in the country. Moving on, Russia says it will not have any discussions on the Crimean issue with the United States. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said this while speaking at the Fort Ross Dialogue International Forum. Sergei Ryabkov said Crimea is a closed chapter now. Ryabkov added there is nothing to discuss on the Crimean issue as that problem has been solved long ago. He stated Moscow and Washington should more actively work on improving bilateral ties. He warned that US sanctions policy on Moscow over Crimean will not be effective. 4 sailors, including a Russian national, have been abducted by pirates from a vessel in the Gulf of Guinea. In a statement, Russian embassy in Togolese Republic said the pirates attacked the tanker 75 nautical miles away from the port in the city of Lome. Maritime registry data showed that the vessel is owned by a company registered in Athens. The Gulf of Guinea is considered a dangerous area as more than 120 people in over 20 incidents have been abducted so far in 2020. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Japan has witnessed a sharp surge in suicides amid the novel coronavirus pandemic. The total suicide deaths in just 1 month have now crossed the total COVID-19 death toll of the country. According to Japanese government statistics, over 2,100 Japanese people committed suicide in October alone. Meanwhile, the country's total COVID-19 death toll stands at 2,087. The pandemic's economic fallout and social isolation are suspected to be the main reasons behind the recent surge. Japan's National Police Agency says 1,805 suicides were registered in September alone. Japan is witnessing its worst bird flu outbreak since 2016. The Agricultural Ministry says the virus has been detected in a fourth prefecture. It said avian influenza was traced on a poultry farm in Hyuga City in the Kyushu Island. 40,000 chickens at the Miyazaki farm will be slaughtered and buried, while exports in a 3-kilometer radius around the farm will be restricted. But officials say humans cannot contract bird flu from eating poultry or eggs. Meanwhile, South Korea has confirmed the first case of bird flu in 2.5 years at a duck farm in the southwest. Now, deforestation in Brazil's Amazon rainforest surged to a 12-year high in 2020. Destruction has soared since President Jair Bolsonaro took office and weakened environmental enforcement. Details in this report.
In 2020, destruction of the world's largest rainforest rose 9.5% from a year earlier to 2.7 million acres. Data from Brazil's National Space Research Agency, INPE, shows this area is 7 times the size of London. That means Brazil will miss its own target, established under a 2009 climate change law for reducing deforestation to roughly 3,900 square kilometers.
So this does not escape from what is our responsibility. These are the real numbers. We cannot escape from this, and we have to improve it. We have until 2022 to put this issue in order and bring it to the point that we think would be an optimal point.
While environmentalists blame the government for the rise, federal officials hail the figures as a sign of progress in fighting deforestation, as the increase was far lower than the 34% recorded in 2019.
What I can say is this: our goal in the Paris Agreement was that by 2025 we had to have a 37% reduction in carbon emissions compared to 2005, which was the year all countries committed to. I think we will keep that goal. We may announce a new target for 2030.
European leaders such as the French President Emmanuel Macron have fiercely criticized Brazil, arguing it is not doing enough to protect the forest. The election of Joe Biden as U.S. president has raised the possibility that the United States will also ramp up pressure on Brazil over the rainforest.
In the Colombian capital of Bogota, a hummingbird sanctuary is providing a picturesque respite from the stresses of urban life. Report in this details.
The Paramuno corridor, located in the forest reserve to the east of Bogota, is proving to be a source of relief for city dwellers. 10 years ago, workers at the Montserrat Hill began to work with native species to restore the deforested hill. Currently, 115 species of birds have been spotted, including 18 types of hummingbirds and some migratory species.
Sometimes it does not seem like it is real, because we are in front of a city of 8 million inhabitants who generate noise on a daily basis. You can hear noise from the city, the generation of population, aggressiveness. This trail in Montserrat is like an oasis where a person can come, let go of their stress and excess baggage.
Every day, the visitors take delight in watching the hummingbirds with their binoculars and capturing them with their camera lenses. The trail supervisor, Camilo Cantor, says a good birding day can see on average from 25 to 35 different species of birds.
I think it becomes a privilege for many people in Colombia and bird watchers around the world, because the hummingbirds here are exclusive to this area. They are not seen in other parts of the country. Maybe they will be, but with difficulty. They would have to walk, wait a long time for a hummingbird to land on a flower. At the Paramuno Trail, with these feeders, we are guaranteeing that in a short time you can catch a glimpse, enjoy and photograph them.
Hummingbirds are a unique species on the American continent and found in great diversity in Colombia.
Now in Indonesia, a tent cinema in West Java province is offering a safer experience to moviegoers during the times of coronavirus. Details in this report.
A large screen perched on top of a hill is bringing the next cinematic experience to the great outdoors, allowing Indonesian film-goers to watch movies in a safer environment during the pandemic. Known as the Cinema Under the Stars, the outdoor camp-style movie space opened 2 months ago in Bandung, the capital of West Java province. It aims to keep people both entertained and socially distanced.
Of course, the pandemic is our concern. Because we started this business during the pandemic, that's why we were brainstorming about how to attract visitors, as people have a thirst for entertainment in times like these. We thought about ways to bring them together. We thought about ways to bring them comfort and security, and we are happy to be able to open a place like this.
Alongside fluffy pillows, blankets, and snacks, each tent is also equipped with a hand sanitizer and disinfectant in line with health protocols. No more than 3 people are allowed in each tent, which costs $15 per movie. Each of the 28 tents is about 1.5 to 2 meters apart.
Movies are usually watched indoors in a studio, but now we have this outdoor cinema with the view of Bandung city where we can see the city. And what's more interesting is that they use these tents here, so I wanted to give it a try.
With more than 530,000 coronavirus infections and 16,000 deaths, Indonesia has the highest number of coronavirus cases and deaths in Southeast Asia. The tents may provide limited protection, but for now, moviegoers say life goes on.
Now, Russia's breakdancer Cassette and Japan's retakes were crowned the Red Bull BC1 champions in Austria. More in this report.
Hey, just a kid, drop the beat.
The 17th edition of the Red Bull BC1 invited 16 of the world's best breakers from 11 countries. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, there have been few chances for face-to-face battles. But this crew managed to meet at Salzburg's Hangar 7, which houses the Flying Bulls aircraft as well as a collection of Formula One cars. Cassette, a member of the 316 crew, won the breakdancing title for the 2nd year in a row by beating Belgium's Mad Max.
I feel super happy. Yeah, but now I can't believe it. For me, when I come at the first battle stage, it was like I'm at practice. But it was a nice place for practice because no people, no crazy reaction. But it kept me calm because nobody crowd to you, oh, let's go. And it was okay. And when I see my family, of course, I was very happy.
Retakes, a member of the Red Bull BC1 All-Stars, became the youngest ever competitor to win the title at the age of 18 when he beat Russia's Al-Khalil.
To be honest, I'm super happy right now, and I still can't believe it's real, And yeah, I worked hard for this competition. Not only this year, I have been working hard to win this competition. So I'm super happy right now.
Breakdancing is also scheduled to feature at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games.
The UK government has told businesses firms to make final preparations for a new trade relationship with the European Union. London says a new centre to monitor goods will help ease what it described as short-term disruption after Brexit. It warned that drastic changes in the management of the trade with Europe will likely give rise to a commotion at the border. Officials said firms must get ready for new paperwork and procedures irrespective of a deal or not. Meanwhile, Irish Prime Minister Michel Martin says he is hopeful for a trade deal by the end of the week. Business firms have voiced concerns over a lack of clarity regarding the new relationship between London and Brussels. Meanwhile, stocks in the Asia-Pacific are trading higher after a private survey showed China's factory activity growth hit a 10-year high. Mainland Chinese stocks are leading the gains, climbing nearly 2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index has added over 1%. In Australia, the ASX 200 in Australia has also gained more than 1%. South Korea's Kospi has jumped nearly 2%, while the stocks in Japan have risen nearly 1.5%. Top-flying football, West Ham beat Aston Villa 2-1 after a fierce English Premier League contest at London Stadium. With this victory, West Ham have now moved into 5th place on the points table. Villa's Oli Watkins was denied a stoppage timer equaliser. An agonising VAR wait deemed his upper arm was offside, even though he seemed to be being held back by the Hammers defender Angelo Ogbonna. Ogbonna headed one home inside the first 2 minutes to open the scoring for Hammers. Villa's Jack Grealish whipped an equaliser past Lukas Fabianski from a distance. Substitute said Branhammer set up Jared Bowen for a delightfully deft touch to retake the lead. Villa had plenty of chances to draw level but couldn't capitalise. The Olympic Rings monument has been reinstalled in Tokyo Bay after being removed in August for maintenance. Organisers are ramping up preparations for next year's postponed Summer Games. Tokyo officials say the return of the monument should send a signal that the Games are getting closer. The monument, which will be lit up later on Tuesday, will remain in place next to Rainbow Bridge until the Olympic finish in August. It will then be replaced with the Paralympics logo. The Olympics were pushed back by a year in March because of the novel coronavirus pandemic. Organisers have yet to provide a figure for how much the postponement will cost. And now let's have a look at the weather updates. Well, that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.